I know I'm not supposed to.
All right, how about now?
Yes.
Awesome. You're totally fine. I was letting the coaches in and the judges and the raters in first. And I just wanted to let the coaches know that we had an issue with our live stream. So now it's set up.
Yeah, I noticed it was getting blocked on our end, but it looks like it's up and running now. So
okay, here we go. I'm going to let some other folks in here. And it looks like Lynn and Kate, you're on as raters.
I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm trying to
Hi
do
there.
multiple things at once.
No worries. If you could just rename yourself with Raider and then your last name.
Do I need to? Okay.
I'll keep an eye out for our presiding judge. And then were you able to find the ballot in process for scoring?
I can barely hear you.
Oh.
I have no idea whether my hair is standing up straight or what at this point.
How about now? Is that a little better?
I've been rolling on the floor all day trying to install a printer. So what was the question?
I feel you. Can you hear me now?
Yes. You're still really quiet, but.
Am I also quiet? Because
you're loud.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Not painfully so, but definitely different.
Teacher voice. I do know that for the students, there is often a wide range in their volume levels.
So I should use these until I do my ballot?
That, or you can do it as you go.
Okay, I didn't want to have too many things open at once. And I didn't know
either way, nope, you're totally fine. If you want to do it on that sheet and then put it in later, you can totally do that.
Okay, do they have to be able to see my face or can I be hidden?
We're asked that raters stay on just so they stay present, but if you need to pop off or something, you're totally.
Okay. Do you want me to get rid of my picture or does that matter?
I think you're okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find our presiding judge.
Who is it?
That's what I'm trying to find here. Let's see.
There is no such thing as Jantonio D'Antonio, just in case you don't know that.
Yeah, I saw that.
Although I'm now going to call her that.
Yeah, I did see that. So is it Joanne?
It is.
Yeah, that's who we're waiting on.
Are you able to tell me the judge's name just so that I can message it to our bailiff because he's feeling nervous about introducing her?
Yeah. Let's. I don't see them on yet. So I'm gonna.
Okay. He's also ready to ask, so that's fine.
Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna open the waiting room and then we'll see who our see if our presider makes it here shortly.
And I will text Kate.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to round 1 of the Kitsap tournament. Just wanted to let you all know that we did have a hiccup with our observer link, but that has been updated now. And we will be waiting for the judge to join us here shortly. If you can change your name to your team letter and the naming convention, that would be great. And we'll be with you shortly.
And just to confirm, it's student last name, not witness last name. Is that correct?
Correct, student's last name.
Thank you.
Judge D'Antonio, are you on the line?
I am.
Hi there. Can you rename yourself to,
Well, I'm trying that.
okay, if not, I can help you out. Thanks for being here.
Yep. All right. Actually, I don't know how to change it on this. If it was my Zoom, I would know how.
Joanne, you should be able to right click on your screen or on the,
There we go. There we go. She got it.
Is that the correct spelling?
There you go. Yep.
Great, thank you.
All right. I need a few more minutes before we start, please.
Absolutely, yep, we have a good 10 minutes.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, if coaches want to check to see if your whole team's here.
Yeah, I'm just reviewing pre-trial motion right now.
I'm not sure who Parker is. Someone with the last name of Parker. I think that you might be on team C.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I'm on TC. I misread.
No, that's okay. I was just like, I don't recognize that name. Thank you. Also, Team C, if it's okay with you, our team would like to share the exhibits and jury instructions that they intend to project during trial for you to approve those. Is that okay?
Sounds good.
Attorneys from Team H, will you go ahead and show Team C your exhibits, please?
Hi, I'm the coach for Team C. I heard your question there. I'll be 100% honest with you. I do not know what you mean.
Oh, I was asking, and I think we are also happy to skip this if everything's unaltered. Usually it's customary beforehand to show the other team the exhibits that you plan on using.
Yeah, got you.
How that works in
I know
Zoom.
that none of them have been marked. None of them have been zoomed or updated or altered from their original state. If that's the least.
Great, then let's skip it. Same for us.
Okay. And yeah, don't be afraid to ask additional questions that we can help out with.
Same here.
Okay, sweet.
We have the jury instructions on a PowerPoint. Should we share that?
As long as they're unaltered, I think we're okay. And they are. So we don't need to show them. After all, we're going to just agree as teams that we haven't changed anything from what's in the case and that we're projecting everything in its original state.
And I'm so sorry and I apologize to project this to everybody, but can I ask one of my team members, never mind, she just changed, we're good. Awesome.
This is great. This is exactly what this half an hour is for. So feel free to work out any kinks that you need. Do we have both teams here as far as you know, coaches?
Team H is good to go.
Okay. Great. And so we have about another 5 minutes. So take a deep breath. I want you all to know that you're the first of 4 rounds or the first of 4 trials for us to go virtual. So congratulations on being a part of this and make sure you have fun and things are going to happen. But you know, be in communication as best as you can. We'll wait for you if you go offline, come back on. Just roll with it, just like we are. We're all learning as well. So thanks for being here. We'll get started shortly.
And what's your name? Staff Courtroom Manager.
Hi, Judge. I'm Amber Wetzel. I'm the executive
Okay.
for YMCA Youth and Government.
Oh, excellent. So now, Amber, this is the first time, I think the first time any of us have done this. So once we go online, are we going to have, is everyone going to be, are we going to see everybody all at one time?
Right, great question.
Okay.
And I'll put this in the chat. So we ask that the judge and the raters be on screen.
Sure.
And the teams know that when they are giving their opening or closing, the attorney will be on screen. And so people will be off screen unless they're presenting or giving an objection. They've found the ground rules. I do recommend that everyone go in speaker view. It'll give you a much wider view of who you're talking with. And we could not find the tab to hide non-video participants. We're still working that out, but we should be good. And Judge, if anything comes up where folks drop off, you can wait a couple minutes
Sure.
and see if they get back on. And if we're able to go back and hear what they missed, we're happy to.
Sure. Well, and it may even be me that drops off. So I've been doing okay, but was on a FaceTime chat earlier and kind of froze up. So I don't know which one of us froze up. Okay. Well, this is definitely going to be a challenge.
Do you want me so that I can tell you how to hide non-video participants if that's helpful?
That would be great. We have not been able to find that setting.
So where you turn your video on and off,
Mm-hmm.
start video, there's the up arrow right next
Right.
to it. If you click on video settings
Yep.
and then scroll down, hide non-video participants.
Oh my goodness. There it is. I didn't scroll far enough. Great. I think other folks had the same issue during the Jamboree. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Jamboree, does that mean you all have actually had experience in using this?
Some teams have. Some teams have practiced.
All right.
Before we get started, I have a quick question for the judge. How would you like to be introduced to the courtroom this evening?
As Judge D'Antonio.
All right, thank you.
And that was my bailiff.
Yep.
All right.
Are both teams ready to proceed?
Well, hang on one second, please. The judge hasn't said she's ready to proceed.
Yep, just let me know.
Hang on, I'm just getting the hang of things here. All right, I'm trying to get the knack of having multiple screens open. All right. All right, let's go ahead and go on the record, Mr. Bailiff.
All rise. Superior Court of Pine County, State of Washington is now in session. Honorable Judge D'Antonio presiding.
Thank you. If you actually are standing, you may be seated. All right. Sorry, like I said, I'm learning how to do multiple screens here. So just bear with me for 1 second. This is a little more complicated than it might normally be, given that we are here by video. One second. All right, we are here in the matter of State of Washington versus Tracy Whitney, case number SPRT-12-15-1791. And we have, I see attorneys from both the state and from defendants. So if we could have a brief introduction of who all the parties are, and we're going to ask you to go kind of slowly because we, as you know, need to do rating on this. So we need to keep track of who, if you will tell us what part you're going to take and just give us a moment to jot these things down. And basically what I'm going to do is just kind of indicate that we're ready for the next person to come up. All right. So for the prosecution side, if you will begin.
Yes, Your Honor. My name is Tuan Nguyen, and I am an attorney for the state.
Okay, and which parts will you be participating in today?
I am doing the direct of Del Hubbard.
Okay.
Wesley, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, that's okay. Del Hubbard.
No, Del Hubbard, Meryl Grimm.
I'm sorry, last name?
Meryl Grimm.
Grip, all right, and what else?
And the cross of Tracy Whitney.
Okay. Okay, all right, I'll have you go ahead back. And the next attorney for the state?
name is Gretchen Voss, and I'm representing the state as well. I am doing the direct of Wesley Everett
Okay,
and the cross of Robin Hess
okay.
and the cross of Aylin Strong.
Last name was
Aylin Strong.
Strong, thanks. All right, sorry, I don't have these names memorized or in front of me right now. All right, and are either Mr. Nguyen or Ms. Voss doing either of the opening, closing, or pretrial motions?
I am doing the pretrial motion.
All right, if you'll include that. All right, Ms. Voss, are you doing opening or close?
I'm doing closing.
Okay, great. All right, and third attorney, and is that it, Ms. Voss?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, great. Next attorney. If there is a third. Oh, there I see one.
Yes, my name is Sumaya Mehdi, and I'm representing the state.
Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, and I'm gonna guess, are you doing the opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and what witnesses are you taking?
Detective Jane Brandberg for my direct, and for my cross, Britt Smithson.
All right, and my raters, anybody miss any of that? Okay, hearing
I'm
nothing.
assuming I'm just going to follow the checklist I have.
Okay, all right. I kind of can only have one or two screens open at a time, so it's hard for me to track all of them. Okay, now, if we can have the prosecution's witnesses.
Our witnesses would now like to introduce themselves in order of appearance.
Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Ruby Grieshaber, and today I will be playing Del Hubbard.
Okay. Next.
Good evening. My name is Camila Mahoney Alonso, and today I'll be Wesley Everett.
Okay, next.
Good evening. I'm Elise Leger, and I will be playing Detective Jaden Brandberg.
Okay. All right, and I think that's all the witnesses. Nope, one more. Go ahead.
Good evening. I am Isabel Lyshaw, and I will be Merle Grimm.
Okay. All right, and defense witnesses. Go ahead.
Good evening. I am Sydney Parker, and I will be Aylin Strong.
Okay,
Good
next.
evening. My name is Shratika Srinivasa, and I'll be playing Robin Hesse.
Okay. All right, next.
Good evening. I'm Sai Ganta, and I'll be playing Britt Smithson.
Okay, and I see one more.
Good evening. My name is Khalil Jupiter, and I'll be playing Tracy Whitney.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, assume that's all the witnesses. All right. One thing I was supposed to ask first, I don't think it's an issue, but just check with my raters, any conflicts that either one of you have by any chance?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, great.
I have none.
Okay, great. All right, so are both parties ready to proceed otherwise? Hearing nothing, I'm going to assume yes. Were there any pretrial motions? Did I lock up?
No.
Okay, pretrial motions?
Nothing from defense.
Okay, no pretrial motions. Are we sure about that? There was a pretrial motion that was filed. Is there any argument on the pretrial motion from defense? Okay. At least I thought it was filed by defense. Apparently it was a motion in limine. And state, any pretrial motions?
Yes, Your Honor.
I must have been incorrect then. All right.
I believe the defense has a motion.
Yeah, I believe they do too. Could we hear from, I actually didn't get from them. I forgot to ask. Oh, you know what? I forgot to have, I'm so sorry. I completely forgot to have the defense attorneys introduce themselves. If I miss anything, someone please make sure they speak up. All right, so my defense attorneys. All right, can you please introduce yourselves and what part you will be taking? Hello?
Greetings. My name is Irene Choi, and I'll be representing the defendant of this case.
Right, there's more than one of you. What part will you be taking part in?
I'll be cross-examining Meryl Grimm, and I'll be direct examining Mr. Smithson.
Okay, and will you be doing pretrial motion, opening or closing?
I'll be doing the closing statement.
Okay, all right, next attorney.
Good evening, Your Honor. I'm also defense attorney today. I'll be cross-examining Detective Jaden Brainberg, and I'll be direct examining Robin Hess.
All right, and you will be doing pretrial or opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor. I'll be doing an opening statement.
Okay, and my third attorney.
Good evening, Your Honor. I'm Kamudi Naidu. I will be direct examining Tracy Whitney and Aylin Strong, and I'm cross-examining Leslie Everett and Del Hubbard. I'm also doing the pretrial motions for today.
Okay, well, when I ask for pretrial motions, that's when I'll ask you to speak up that you do have one. All right, okay, so with that said, I'm sorry that I missed you all. It wasn't on purpose. All right, so pretrial motions, my understanding, Ms. Nayedu, you have a pretrial motion.
Sorry, could you say that one more time?
You have a pretrial motion you wish me to consider?
I did not file anything, so I'm not sure where it's from.
Okay. All right. All right, the only housekeeping issue that I have before we get started into opening statements is that we will more than likely take a 5-minute break once the state has rested, because I will need a convenience break and I'm sure everyone else will need a little bit of a breather. If there's any other need for break, let me know. And just a reminder before we get started, and I'll try to remember to remind you again, when you have these breaks, it is not a time to confer with anyone. So to make sure that, you know, if your family's watching out there, that you're not, they're not giving you any hints on what you need to do or not need to do. Okay. So any other housekeeping matters that either of the parties have?
I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure pretrial motion is a speech that is graded and has points.
I know. I'm aware of that. So is there a coach for the defense who's unaware that pretrial motion is part of the rating?
Yes, Your Honor.
So what are we doing? I've asked multiple times for the pretrial
Again,
motion.
yeah, absolutely, Judge. I apologize on behalf of my team and my first year experience as a coach. Doing everything that I can within this pandemic and virtual learning experience to give my children and my students the best experience possible.
So
I apologize for any confusion if there was a trial pieces there. And
Okay, I get it. I get it. Okay,
Thank you,
I
Judge.
get it. Sorry, I got it. You don't have, okay. So I take it that you don't have pretrial motion prepared. So what I'm going to do in order to give the prosecution the benefit of having their benefit of being scored in that area is I'm gonna go, this is very unusual. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna proceed as if the defendant is waiving argument and they'll be relying on their briefs. Or I guess there wasn't really a brief, but they'll be relying, well, let's say there was a brief. So, and it sounds to me like prosecution has prepared a response to that motion. So what I'll do now is I'll go ahead and take responsive arguments from prosecution.
Yes, Your Honor. Would you like me to begin?
Yes, please.
Right. Your Honor, the state seeks to admit these statements as non-hearsay under admission by a party opponent. Firstly, silence constitutes adoptive admission only if the party opponent heard the incriminating statement, was able to respond, and the statement was so accusatory that an innocent party opponent would deny it. In State v. Nesland had a conversation regarding a homicide and did not deny incriminatory statements or graphic accounts.
I'm going to actually just stop you 1 second. What I would like you to do is, can you give me just a summary of what the statements are and what the purpose would be?
Oh, yes, sorry.
That's okay.
There was a video conference on August 22nd, 2019. There were statements made about an Australian protest. And the issue here is whether or not the discussion during this conference is hearsay.
All right, go ahead with your argument then.
Okay. The trial court allowed this testimony as adoptive admission by silence, finding this in a separate determination. Furthermore, a party opponent can manifest adoption through words or gestures. In State v. Anderson, 1986, the defendant adopted the statement by nodding their head yes. In State v. Bloomsbury, 1968, the defendant acquiesced to an accusatory statement by saying it was just one mistake. During this video conference between Britt Smithson, Wesley Everett, and the defendant, no one disputes that Tracy Whitney was there. We expect Smithson to testify that Whitney was listening attentively as per usual, and we also expect Everett to testify that Smithson said, if the council won't take down the blockhouse, we knock it down. If Grin's minions get in our way, shove them out of the way. And that Whitney was listening because they were visible on the screen and was looking at their monitor. In fact, Whitney might have said in response to Smithson's statements. Lastly,
do we know that he actually did say or what's the facts on that?
Everett testifies that they heard Whitney say through the conference.
And through that, you're indicating that he is basically agreeing with what was being said.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thanks. Go ahead.
Lastly, we also expect Whitney to testify that everyone in the conference was pleased due to the Australian protest and was fully aware of Smithson using it as a motivational tool, showing understanding of what was happening during the conference. Given the manner of the video conference, Whitney had the ability to respond and deny Smithson's statements, but still chose not to, showing acquiescence. From all perspectives, Whitney understood the statements and manifested adoption of the statement through words, but if not, still manifested adoption through silence. Before admitting co-conspirator statements under Rule 801 D2E, the trial court must make an independent determination that a prima facie conspiracy exists and that the defendant is a part of that conspiracy. In State v. Baruso, Baruso operated with a gang involved in illegal gambling activities. Here, Baruso concedes that there is sufficient evidence to find he was involved in a gambling conspiracy. Generally, this case is similar to today's. There's a clear prima facie conspiracy here. We expect Everett to provide testimony on Whitney's encouragement of an unlawful action and to forcibly remove statues by any means necessary. Whitney's writings and recovered emails and texts show a prima facie conspiracy to take violent actions with messages such as ready to bring the hammer down and be willing to sacrifice yourself and others if necessary. These absolutely prove that a conspiracy of vandalism and violence exists. Generally, courts interpret the in furtherance requirement broadly. A statement meant to induce further participation in the conspiracy or to inform a co-conspirator about the status of the conspiracy is sufficient. Here, Smithson's statements meet both. Given that the nature of motivational speeches is to spark future action to those listening, the statements made by Smithson during the conference are prospective and further deemed as conspiracy. Not only are they in furtherance, but they also inform other co-conspirators progress made in ongoing operations. In State v. Israel, Israel had been giving more information about better houses to rob, and when a robber related that to another testifying robber, he interpreted that more successful robberies were going to happen. The statement here was sufficient to support that it let another co-conspirator know of operations in progress.
Mr. Nguyen, your time is up. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that timing was coming in through the chat. So I probably should have warned you about 30 seconds to go, but now I see it. So your time is up, and I have sufficient information. I've reviewed the briefing and also reviewed the case law that has been cited, and I am going to permit that testimony. I'm not going to rule that that's not admissible. So I'm going to find that it is admissible. All right. Thank you, Mr. Nguyen. All right. So with that said, is the state prepared with their opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
May I begin?
Yes, please.
On September 16th, 2019, Dell Hubbard was assaulted and left permanently disabled, leaving her unable to work ever again by the events of that day ruthlessly orchestrated by Tracy Whitney. This had been a conspiracy planned long before September 16th by Tracy Whitney, the founder of Debunking Myth Story, and Wesley Everett was simply a pawn to the puppet master Tracy Whitney. The defendant placed controlling strings onto Wesley Everett from the very start and put the idea of violence into Everett's mind. Debunking Myth Story is an organization that was created for the removal of all statues by any means, and the defendant prepared inner circle members, including Wesley Everett and Britt Smithson, to destroy a local statue. The inner circle is a group from Barrington that the defendant selected to participate in removing statues in the area. Today, it will be the state's job to prove that Tracy Whitney is the person responsible for the events of September 16th. This conspiracy all started when Wesley Everett was introduced to Debunking Myth Story and Tracy Whitney through Britt Smithson. Having the natural urge to want to belong, Everett took this as an honor and began her contact with Whitney. Wesley Everett will testify today about how the defendant used an encrypted messaging app to hide the tracks of the incriminating messages the defendant sent. In April of 2019, the defendant communicated to the inner circle that they were ready to take action and that their target was the very statue. The defendant helped the group prepare public pressure while members of the inner circle, including Britt Smithson, attended city council meetings. Part of this public pressure the defendant prepared included telephone harassment and multiple emails sent to the mayor anonymously by message the defendant taught the inner circle. Mayor Meryl Grimm will testify today about the aggressive emails and hateful speech she received when the defendant got involved in the removal of this very statue. In August of 2019, Whitney communicated to Everett to watch for changes on the DMU website, since new phrases and materials convey the need for imminent action or explain tactics. Detective Jaden Brandberg will testify today about the coded language she found on the DMU website and how the defendant routinely communicated the need for direct and violent action to DMU members. We will also learn that energetic tango is the signal, meaning that imminent violent action must be taken. A day before the final protest, the defendant texted Wesley Everett and said, "Ready to bring the hammer down tomorrow?" Everett texted back, "Born ready," and the defendant insisted Everett to be listening at the protest since the defendant would be shouting a signal. When September 16th finally came, the inner circle agreed that since the city council rejected removing the statue, the inner circle would remove the statue by direct violent action. Wesley Everett was live streaming the event. The defendant was watching the live stream, and near the end of the protest, the volume on Everett's tablet went up, and the defendant screamed, "Energetic tango!" Everett heard the signal to take action, and Smithson slapped Everett's shoulder to go. Everett then jumped onto the statue base. Smithson handed Everett a sledgehammer that Smithson brought to the protest, and Everett then whacked the statue's chest and shoulder. Dell Hubbard will testify today about how when she instinctively climbed the statue to protect it, Everett broke off the statue arm, which fell on Hubbard's left shoulder, fracturing the scapula and breaking the collarbone in 3 places. Everett then locked eyes with Hubbard and slammed the sledgehammer onto Everett's skull, and not onto the Hubbard's skull, giving Hubbard a concussion and leaving her unable to do physical labor ever again. After Hubbard had been injured, all members of the inner circle who were at the protest had fled the scene. Mayor Meryl Grimm will testify today about how the cost of restoration for the Barry statue will exceed $10,000. Today, the state has the burden of proving that Tracy Whitney is the person responsible for this incident, and we gladly accept it. The state has charged Tracy Whitney as an accomplice to Wesley Everett to committing assault in the 2nd degree against Dell Hubbard, malicious mischief in the 1st degree of vandalizing the Barry statue, and finally, engaging in criminal conspiracy with others to commit these crimes. Today,
just let you know you have 1 minute remaining.
Yes, Your Honor. Today, we ask that the jury look for the hidden strings the defendant placed on Wesley Everett to control her. The state asked, through direct cross-examinations, we are confident that we will prove every single one of these charges and that the only right verdict is that the defendant, Tracy Whitney, is guilty as charged. Thank you.
Thank you. And the defendant, your opening statement?
May I begin, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
A person serving the purpose of an important act cannot identify the cause. As most people can infer, when serving a deed for the purpose of goodness, you can never know what the outcomes are. Your Honor, members of the jury, my name is Nishita Medaliar, and I'll be representing the defendant in this case. Today, we're gathered here on the case of my client, Tracy Whitney, who was falsely accused of 3 different counts: malicious mischief in the 1st degree, criminal conspiracy, and assault in the 2nd degree. Tracy Whitney is specifically known for the start of the D-White movement, or debunking my story movement worldwide. The purpose of the start of this movement examines popular stories, legends, statues, and people to show what the real heroic facade was created by the public view. Critics opposing this view, Whitney explains, removing a statue is not erasing history because statues are mythology, not history. There are 2 different ideal factors. Some people want these famous statues because it represents dynamic power, while the other explanations for the past satisfying religions don't. In reality, she claims the problems with these monuments are they normalize the past, make injustices easier to defend, and more insidiously, harder to see. You have already heard about plaintiff witness Mr. Dale Hubbard's assault. Before taking that accusation of clear assault into mind, picture this. On September 16th, 2019, a large gathering had taken place in the Barrington City Plaza. The plaza had been surrounded by many statues of remembered and honored people, including the statue of Alton Berry himself. Hundreds of people had gathered around to hear speeches given by certain people working with and against the city council. The people gathered on the presenting stage were Meryl Grimm, the mayor, and the members of the D-Might movement. Britt Smithson, who was delivering a speech, and Tracy Whitney, who was seen through a tablet held in the hands of tag-along Wesley Everett on stage. As speeches were being delivered, the peaceful gathering had turned into a crazy and noisy protest. The debate had been settled between Mayor Grimm arguing the reasons for the Alton Berry statue not to be removed, while the D-Might movement had been arguing the reasons for why it should be removed. During this angry mob, things started getting out of control as Mayor Grimm had started getting frustrated for not being able to convince the audience as much as the D-Might movement was. All of a sudden, Wesley Everett had jumped up with a sledgehammer while handling the tablet to Britt Smithson. Everett then had broken the side of Alton Berry's arm, and the big pieces ended up falling on Mr. Dale Hubbard. From the defense side, we claim Tracy Whitney had no plan on such vicious acts executed by Wesley Everett himself. Although we claim the D-White movement had been discussing with the city council for the removal of the statue, but this meant with legal terms. Certain actions and plans had been performed with the city council through legal following. No plans had been set about attacking the statue, nor for it to cause substantial body harm to Dale Hubbard. During this incident, 1, Wesley Everett had obtained a sledgehammer out of nowhere. 2, Wesley Everett had been part of the D-Might movement, but the movement had no means of attacking, so this only comes from Wesley Everett's words. In support, the witnesses listed below have witnessed the protest live, in addition to one of them supporting and proving Tracy Whitney free of guilt. In defense, Tracy Whitney had played a very small role in the statue removal activism. Of all the accusations raised against her, she had claimed by Wesley Everett himself, this will all be testified by the proof of the defense witnesses. They're all serious accusations, meaning they aren't something taken from a light perspective, since they're being raised against someone who had no physical or intentional doing in this case. 3 defendant witnesses will be brought up on trial in addition to Tracy Whitney. Robin Hess, professor of legal studies, Aylin Strong, reporter at the Barrington Standard News, and Britt Smithson, owner of Smithson Construction. All 3 witnesses will be talking on the basis of the 3 counts Tracy Whitney had been accused of. Your Honor, you are brought here for the purpose of perceiving why my client, Tracy Whitney, shouldn't be accused of these false actions. For these reasons, after you have heard all the witness and testimonies, at the end of this trial, we will ask you to return a verdict in favor of Tracy Whitney. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to give 1 second. this is a little different than what we might usually do when we're not virtual. We're being asked to enter our comments as we go. And so I'm just going to take a little brief period of time here just to finish that. And I'll just give the raters a little more time. All right. And this will make it a little bit slower, but I'm going to check in with the raters. Are you ready to proceed to the next phase?
I am.
I am, Your Honor.
All right, great, thanks. All right. Sorry, I forgot to put a score in here. All right, so state, if you'll call your first, oh, actually, I'm sorry, bailiff, if we can swear in the witnesses. So what I'd like to do is if all of our witnesses can present yourself at this point. And my bailiff, are you prepared to swear them in, or would you like me to do that?
Do you mind doing it, Your Honor?
I do not. All right. So do I have all my witnesses here? All right, I do. All right, if I can have you all raise your right hand. All right. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I can hear a yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
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 All right. Thank you. All right. And if the state, if you will call your first witness.
Yes, the state would like to call Del Hubbard to the stand.
All right, Mr. Hubbard, if you'll take the stand.
Please state your full.
Hang on, I'm sorry. Let me just see here. Mr. Hubbard, are you? Am I seeing you?
That's me.
There you are. I got you. Sorry, I can only see so many. All right, you're identified. Go ahead, Mr. Nguyen.
All right. Please state your full name, spelling out your last for the record.
My name is Del Hubbard, Hubbard.
Thank you, Ms. Hubbard. Are you currently employed?
Unfortunately, no. Up until recently, I was the head groundskeeper for Barrington's Municipal Public Works Department, where my team and I essentially took care of public spaces.
What caused you to lose your job?
I was attacked on the job, and the injuries forced me to take medical leave.
I'm sorry to hear that. Let's take a step back. How did that happen?
There were a series of protests surrounding a statue of our town's founder, Alton Berry. It was one of the protesters who attacked me.
Are you familiar with this statue of Alton Berry?
This statue, yes. My team and I were responsible for its maintenance and upkeep, but I know very little about the man himself.
Has there been any recent refurbishments on the statue?
Yes, in 2017, Mayor Grimm got a bond approved to refurbish the statue in the surrounding area.
Were there any complaints about this bond?
There were some initial grumblings about the cost of the project, but nothing of note really until 2019.
So when did the protests start happening?
April 2019.
And how many protests were there in total?
There were 5 over the course of 5 months.
Did you attend any of the protests?
Yes, I was there for the last 3 in a professional capacity.
Were there any violent protests?
As far as I know, the first 3 protests were noisy but fairly peaceful. It wasn't until the 5th one that things got properly violent.
And were there any speakers or people taking charge?
I believe that Britt Smithson and Wesley Everett were the main speakers.
Did you hear any repeated phrases throughout the protest?
It was very noisy, but I did hear something about a house of cards or a blockhouse and something about high energy tango.
Towards the end of the protest, what did you do?
When it looked like things were wrapping up, I moved my cleaning cart and parked it next to the statue of Alton Berry to start cleaning up.
And after you parked, what happened next?
Wesley Everett locked eyes with me and then jumped up on the base of the statue and started screaming about needing to finish this.
What did Everett do next?
Well, Everett was handed a sledgehammer and started hitting the statue.
How did Everett obtain the sledgehammer? I think you're muted, Judge.
Make sure that you remind me of that. So let's stop the time, bailiff, as of when we lost her. So make sure that you do that whenever we lose somebody.
Yes, Your Honor.
There she is. All right, so you're back, Mr. Hubbard, Ms. Hubbard. All right,
Yes.
so go ahead and start the time again, Mr. Nguyen. You'll pick up where we were.
How did Everett obtain the sledgehammer?
Britt Smithson handed it to her.
After Everett hit the statue, what did you do in response?
Well, I'm not a fan of outright vandalism, and I'm responsible for the statue, so I climbed up to try and get her to stop.
Were there any more strikes after the initial first one?
Yeah, Wesley Everett hit the statue again, and its arm came off and hit me in the left shoulder.
After the arm fell, did Everett directly strike you with the hammer?
Yes, Everett hit me in the head, and I blacked out.
What injuries did you sustain?
I sustained a concussion, and the impact of the statue's arm broke my scapula and fractured my collarbone in 3 places.
Did you suffer any emotional trauma?
Absolutely. This entire thing has been really traumatic for me.
So how did these injuries affect your livelihood?
Well, I can't work anymore, and I may never be able to again.
Thank you. No further questions.
Judge, you're muted.
Thank you again. All right, so defense, cross-examination.
All right. Good evening, Ms. Hubbard. So who was it that injured you at the protest?
Wesley Everett hit me with the sledgehammer.
And who was it that broke the statue?
Wesley Everett.
And was Tracy Whitney at the protest?
I don't believe so, although I have heard that they were present through some sort of video chat live stream.
Right. And do you know if Whitney was responsible for telling Everett or telling Everett to break the statue or hurt you?
Objection, lack of personal knowledge.
Probably not mute myself, I know. Response from defense attorney?
I do not have a response.
Objection sustained. Move on to your next question.
Okay. Have you ever seen Everett at any of the other protests?
I didn't know her super well before or really at all before. I think that they were present for the other protests. Yes.
But in your statement, you said that this was the first time you'd seen Everett at a protest. Correct.
They might have been there, but that was the first time I knew them because they came out and hit me with a sledgehammer.
All right. And do you think that Everett harmed you on purpose?
Objection, speculation.
I would sustain that objection. Next question.
Okay. Those are all my questions for cross.
All right, and Mr. Nguyen, any redirect?
No redirect, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right, Ms. Hubbard, you are free to sit down. And give me 1 second here. All right, I'm sorry if I'm slower than everyone else. All right, since I'm the slowest, I'm assuming my raters are ready. All right, so State, if you will call your next witness.
Yes, Your Honor. The state calls Wesley Everett to the stand.
Mr. Everett, if you will come forward. I'm sorry, Ms. Everett. All right, if you want to begin your questions.
Yes. Please state your full name, spelling your last for the record.
My name is Wesley Everett. Everett is spelled Everett.
What is your current job?
I'm a video game designer.
Where do you live?
I live in Barryton.
How long have you been living in Barryton for?
About 5 years now.
Are you familiar with Debunking Myth Story?
Yes, I am. I was a member.
What is Debunking Myth Story?
Debunking Mystery, or people call it DMIT, is an organization for the removal of all statues everywhere by any means necessary.
What made you decide to join DMIT?
I wanted to join a group that was really invested in history.
Can you briefly explain the hierarchy of Debunking Myth Story?
Yes, at the very top is Tracy Whitney, who makes all the final decisions. Below Whitney is Britt Smithson, then comes the inner circle members, then comes the regular members.
What is the inner circle?
The inner circle is a small group that met with Britt after the main DMIT meetings for more intense discussions.
Is the defendant a member of the inner circle?
Yes, of course. Although Britt is the leader of the inner circle, Whitney oversees everything and makes final decisions remotely.
Do you know the defendant personally?
Although we never met in person, I knew Whitney quite well through emails and chat messages that we exchanged.
And my co-counsel is now putting Exhibit 4 onto the shared screen. Okay. I'm showing you what has been marked as Exhibit 4. Do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
There are email messages between myself and Tracy Whitney.
Do you remember sending and receiving these messages, these emails?
Yes, I do.
And is it a fair and accurate representation of the email sent between you and Tracy Whitney?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, we ask that we would like to admit Exhibit 4 into evidence.
All right, any objection? Any objection from the defense? I can't tell if you're just muted or you're not objecting, so I need you to respond.
Yes, Your Honor.
And what is your objection?
Tracy Whitney has hired staff members to respond to any sort of messages or emails.
No, I'm asking you what your objection is, not the factual basis. Tell me what your objection is.
The defendant is not the actual respondent, the one responding to these messages.
Okay, and state your response to that objection.
I'm wondering how that is an objection to admitting this into evidence as...
Because you cannot verify that this is what Tracy Whitney actually sent.
Response, state.
Has it been established that...
You're not asking questions, you're just responding.
Whitney has stated in her statement, she said that she had hired staff members to respond.
No, actually, I'm not asking you for facts again. What we'll do at this point is I'm going to go ahead and admit these, and what can be done is you can argue the weight to be given to this statement rather than the admissibility. So in other words, it will come in, but that allows you to argue how much weight the jury should put on the consideration of this exhibit. All right, thank you. All right, State, if you'll continue.
Yes, Your Honor. May we publish Exhibit 4 to the jury?
It is so published.
Thank you. And Miss Everett, would you please read aloud the fourth line of the email you received from Tracy Whitney on September 14th at 2:32 p.m.?
Yes. Have patience to win and be willing to sacrifice yourself and others if necessary.
Thank you. And what event was Tracy Whitney talking about in this email?
Whitney is talking about what was going to happen at the protest in 2 days on September 16th.
Thank you. My co-counsel is now switching to Exhibit 5. I'm now showing you what has been marked as Exhibit 5. Do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
They're chat messages.
Who are these chat messages between?
Me and Tracy Whitney.
Where are these messages from?
They're recovered from the app we use to message each other.
What do you mean by recovered?
The app deletes all the messages within 10 minutes of posting them.
How do we have access to these messages today?
Detective Brandberg was able to get the messages from 2 dates directly from the app's company.
Are the recovered messages the same as when you originally sent them?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, we ask that you would the court admit Exhibit 5 into evidence.
Okay, you're offering it for admission. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
All right, and any objection?
No, Your Honor.
All right, that's a no. All right, the exhibit, I'm hearing a big hum in the background there. All right, it will be admitted, and I've got somebody with a hum in the background that's really kind of disturbing.
Sorry, that might be my computer. I'm not totally sure why it's making that sound.
Okay, sounded like a printer. All right, go ahead, State.
May we publish Exhibit 5 to the jury?
It is so published.
Thank you. Miss Everett, can you please explain which messages are from you and which are from the defendant?
My messages are on the left and Whitney's are on the right.
Will you please read the messages from August 19th out loud?
Yes. Couple Barriettes in the crowd today. Shut them up real quick. Not too hard, I hope, but gotta do what you gotta do. Push or two was enough. Mouthy went back down. Sorry. Good. Can't let that type take us off message. Ready for more action.
Here, you mentioned pushing around a few barriettes, and Whitney responds with good. Was that a normal response for Whitney to give regarding violence towards people?
Yes, very much so. Whitney encouraged me and other members to do what we had to do to get things done and had positive responses to everything I would do.
And thank you, Ms. Everett. Would you please now read the messages from September 15th out loud?
Yes. Ready to bring the hammer down tomorrow? Born ready. Great. Just make sure it's right. Then wow them with your words. I'll be listening. You should too. See you then. Say the words ET, ET, ET.
What are you discussing in this conversation?
Oh, we're talking about what is going to happen on the protest the very next day, and Whitney is giving me encouragement.
At the end, you wrote, say the words ET, ET, ET. What does ET stand for?
ET stands for Energetic Tango.
What is Energetic Tango?
Energetic Tango is a code word.
What is it a code word for?
Everyone in the inner circle had agreed privately with Whitney that when those words were said, that it was a signal for the use of immediate force to accomplish our goals.
Thank you. I would now like to direct your attention to September 16th. Were you at the protest on that day?
Yes, I was.
And what happened when you first arrived?
When we got there, Smithson gave me a tablet to live stream what was happening so Whitney could watch and talk to people remotely.
Were you the only person live streaming?
No, several other members of the inner circle throughout the crowd were also broadcasting or recording, although they conveniently disappeared once the trouble began.
And when did this trouble begin?
Towards the end of the rally.
How did it start?
It started when the defendant's face filled up the live stream and Whitney screamed "Energetic Tango."
You mentioned earlier that energetic tango is a code word for action. What does it mean in this situation?
It meant that anyone who heard those words should take action against the statue. So when I heard it, I knew Whitney wanted me to do something. Britt confirmed this by slapping my shoulder to go.
And what action did you take after hearing energetic tango?
I jumped up on the statue and demanded its destruction, then hit the statue with the sledgehammer Britt gave me when I first got up.
After the accident, was the crowd still there?
No. When I got the chance to look, I saw that almost the entire crowd, except for a few reporters like Lynn Strong, had disappeared. Everyone in the inner circle, including Britt Smithson, was gone.
Do you take responsibility for the actions you took on September 16th?
Yes, I do.
Did Tracy Whitney have any influence on the actions you took on September 16th?
Yes, 100%. I just wanted to fulfill Whitney's plan to destroy the statue by any means necessary.
Thank you. No further questions.
All right. And defense, cross-examination.
Good evening, Ms. Everett.
Good evening.
How did you find DMIT?
I found it through a social app called Meet Me.
And you did end up joining, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Does that mean your values are also aligned with the organization?
You could say so, yeah.
So you also believe in Tracy Whitney's statement about taking down all the statues?
Yes, because many of those people who those statues are dedicated to don't deserve those statues in their memory.
And what were you doing at the protest?
I was in charge of crowd management and speech making.
Okay. And in your statement, you said you were invited to the inner circle by Britt Smithson, correct?
That's correct.
And you were also involved in the planning of the protest with the inner circle, correct?
That's correct.
But you claim you were unaware of the events that were to take place then? Is that still true?
I'm sorry, the events?
Breaking the statue's arm. You were
Sorry, could you
unaware of
repeat that?
I'm sorry, hang on. You both are talking at the same time and I couldn't understand either one.
Sorry
So
about
I'm
that.
sorry. So let's, if you'll go ahead and ask your question, Defense, again.
So I asked, but you claim that you were unaware of the events, as in supposedly being given a sledgehammer to break the statue. You were unaware that that was going to happen.
Well, I was aware that Tracy Whitney wanted to do anything to get that statue down.
But you did not know that you were going to break the statue yourself.
No, I was not.
Okay. And where was Tracy during the protest?
Tracy Whitney was on the broadcast and watching it.
Okay.
Well, watching the broadcast, sorry.
And did Tracy Whitney directly tell you to take down or break the statue?
Well, Tracy Whitney said energetic tango, and we had previously agreed that meant that we had to do whatever it took to take that statue down.
And was the meaning of energetic tango ever actually explained to you?
Yes, as I said, it was a code word for action.
And did Whitney tell you that?
Yes.
Okay. And have you ever met Tracy Whitney in person?
Not in person, no, but through chat messages and emails we've exchanged.
And do you actually know it was her you were messaging, or could it have been her staff?
I'm pretty sure it was her.
And how do you know that?
I mean, I can't be sure, but it sounded, I mean, what I was being emailed and, messaged sounded like Tracy.
How do you know what she sounds like?
I mean, I don't know for sure, but I've heard her voice on the video chats we've had
And
with DMET.
so that means you don't know what she actually told you to do or has said in the chat compared to what her staff members might have said.
I mean,
Objection,
might have.
speculation.
Response?
No response, Your Honor.
Okay, actually, it's more been kind of asked and answered several times, so I will go ahead and sustain the objection. Next question.
In your statement, you said you were manipulated by Tracy Whitney.
Yes, that's correct.
And how exactly is that so?
Tracy Whitney and Britt Smithson both convinced me into taking these actions and ultimately let me take the blame for them.
And at the protest, were you unable to act of your own accord or make your own reasoned decisions?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
At the protest, were you unable to act of your own accord or make your own reasoned decisions?
I was able to, but in the heat of the moment, I was following Whitney's instructions.
So you did have a choice to not break the statute then, is that correct?
Yeah, I guess. Yes.
And in your statement on line 10 of page 6, you said you took the sledgehammer without hesitation. So it was your personal choice then?
Partially, but again, I had been manipulated into doing it by Tracy Whitney and Britt Smithson.
Were you forced to smash the statue by someone?
I was not forced, no.
So that was a decision you made yourself then?
Objection asked and answered.
It has been asked and answered multiple times, so you can ask your next question.
That is all. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Any redirect?
None, Your Honor.
Actually, hang on one second. Let me, can we get a time? Bailiff, if you can just give us time remaining on both parties.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thanks.
The prosecution has 11 minutes and 37 seconds remaining, and the defense has 13 minutes and 42 seconds remaining.
All right, just to give you guys a little bit of a heads up. All right, redirect.
None, Your Honor.
All right, so the witness may step down. All right, and give me 1 second again. Thanks for your patience, and obviously we would stop the time. All right, and okay, state, call your next witness.
Yes, Your Honor. The state calls Detective Jaden Brandberg to the stand.
And detective, if you'll come forward. Go ahead, Miss Mahdi.
Okay. Please state your full name and spell your last for the record.
Jaden Brandberg, Brandburg.
What is your current occupation?
I'm a detective and the lead investigating officer for the Major Crimes Unit of the Barrington Municipal Police Department.
And how long have you been an officer detective?
I've been in the law enforcement profession for about 20 years.
And what did you specialize in as an officer detective?
I spent 3 years working as a general officer, 6 years working in the Drug Enforcement Agency, and 2 years working as a lead detective.
Now, how are you involved in today's case?
I was called to the scene to investigate the incident and the possible conspiracy and number of suspects behind it.
Did your experience and training at the DEA inform your investigation of this case?
Yes, I learned skills from working in the DEA that proved useful to the case.
And what skills are those?
I received special training in listening to and deciphering coded language that criminals use to communicate with each other.
And have these skills helped you in your investigation of this incident?
Yes, they have.
How so?
I used the deciphering skills that I learned from working in the DEA on the DMIT organization's website.
And did you end up formally investigating DMIT?
Yes, I did.
Did you receive search warrants to investigate DMIT?
Yes, I did.
What did your search warrants permit you to do?
I received search warrants for the records of the DMIT Internet Company used by Everett, Smithson, and many others to communicate with Whitney.
And did you find anything valuable from the website?
Yes, I did. I found evidence of the organization suggesting and promoting violent actions.
And what was the evidence that brought you to that conclusion?
I found the use of the phrase energetic tango to be used on the website, which basically means that the organization's next action will be a violent one. This is a signal directed to DMIT members, which is based off a meme that is used to promise imminent armed rebellion.
I'm now showing you what's been marked as exhibit number 2. Do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
These are the excerpts from the website that I copied and booked into evidence while investigating DMIT.
Is this a fair and accurate depiction of the exhibit?
Yes, it is.
Do these excerpts look similar to when you first found them on the DMIT website?
Yes, however, while deciphering the website, I added brackets to the excerpts. In those brackets, I explained what I learned from that particular excerpt.
Your Honor, we ask that the court admit exhibit number 2 into evidence.
You're offering this for admission?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, and any objection from defense?
No objection.
No objection? All right, it'll be admitted.
May I publish exhibit number 2 to the jury?
Sure, it has been published.
Okay.
Proceed.
Now, on exhibit number 2, could you please refer to one of the phrases on the DMIT website that you view as coding?
Yes, here's one.
And what does the phrase say?
Well, it says, anyone defending the blockhouse when they are invaded and destroyed must be swept aside as well.
And in your expert opinion, what do these excerpts mean?
In this context, the blockhouses are any statue that DMIT members are trying to bring down. This means that anyone defending the statues when they are being invaded and destroyed must be dealt with as well, even if that requires violent actions.
Now, Detective, is there anything else that you found that is of great importance while investigating the DMIT website?
Yes, I found a wanted poster of the Barry statue. The description of the wanted poster includes the phrase, by any means necessary. DMIT members, do your duty, signed by E.T.
And how's the description of this poster important in this case?
Well, through the description, the defendant is commanding that DMIT members take down the statue, however they can, which can include violence. Nowhere in the description does the defendant discourage violence.
Now, finally, Detective, what was the most important thing you learned while looking at and deciphering the DMIT website?
Well, at first, DMIT can appear to be a nonviolent organization. Nonetheless, we can see how the defendant added violent and aggressive phrases to famous quotes such as Gandhi, actively encouraging violence by any means necessary.
Thank you. No further questions.
All right, cross-examination.
Evening, Detective. Right. Detective Brainberg, you have worked in the law enforcement profession for 20 years, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
You have also received special training in listening and deciphering coded languages for all types of crime, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Now, after the scene at the plaza, you claim Mr. Alan Strong, the Barrington News reporter, he told you someone handed Wesley Everett the sledgehammer, but he didn't see who it was, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. In the next evidence you tackled, when you examined the email chains between the DMIT group, you claim to have noticed Whitney used quotes of famous historical figures such as Mahatma Gandhi and Henry David Thoreau, correct?
Yes.
Okay. The emails sent out to the whole group were used in coded words and phrases from the quotes Gandhi and David used, correct?
Yes.
So you inferred that Whitney used these past people's examples who all advocated for nonviolent actions for the purpose of encrypting direct violent actions?
Yes, as we can see in the website, Whitney used multiple and aggressive violent phrases to basically change the phrases of nonviolent quotes to be violent and aggressive.
Have you ever considered the coded words, they could possibly be spontaneous words thrown in group conversations?
Yes, that is possible, but that is not how I interpret it.
Okay. From your expertise, you mentioned several phrases from deciphering the email chains, such as energetic tango and electric boogaloo were used.
Yes.
From a juvenile way of saying the phrases, you're certain the phrases were addressed as a call to action for the followers?
Yes, that is correct.
You were certain about it?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah. So from your expertise, You mentioned several phrases from deciphering the email chains, such as energetic tango or electric boogaloo.
Mhm.
From a juvenile way of saying those phrases, are you certain the phrases were addressed as a call to action for the followers of the DMIC movement?
Yes, I can say I'm pretty certain.
Okay. Detective, once you set your investigation to look for possible witnesses, the public DMIC meetings, they were all openly advertised on Meet Me, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. You also claimed you didn't hear any discussion of violent behavior or damaging property plans in the public meetings, correct?
Yes, not that I know of.
Okay. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, any redirects? Sorry.
Yes, Your Honor. Detective, did you find the quotes of nonviolent activists on the DMIT website itself to be violent?
No, I found the quotes that Whitney, the defendant, added to be violent.
Thank you. No further questions.
Any recross on that?
No recross.
All right, Detective, you may take your seat. And give me 1 second, please, again. All right, state, call your next witness.
State calls Meryl Grimm to the stand. And before we begin, can I inquire how much time I have remaining?
Actually, I was just going to do that for you. Yes, please. If you'll give both people their times.
Yes, Your Honor. The prosecution has 7 minutes and 8 seconds remaining on the clock, and the defense has 10 minutes and 59 seconds remaining.
And did you say the state has 7 minutes, 8 seconds?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, all right, thanks. All right, state.
All right, please state your full name, spelling out your last for the record.
Meryl Grimm, Grimm.
Thank you, Ms. Grimm. What do you work as?
I am the mayor of Barryton.
And what made you want to be mayor?
I have always loved Barryton's past and always wanted Barryton to thrive and prosper. Becoming mayor was one step closer to that goal.
And are you familiar with the statue of Alton Berry?
Yes, I am. He was my great-grandfather, the founder of Barryton.
Where does the statue reside?
In the city plaza?
Has there been any recent work done on Berry?
Yes, I passed a bond in 2017 getting funds to clean up the surrounding spaces and the statue.
Were there any complaints about this bond?
Yes, there was. There were some people who showed up to every council meeting, one of them being Britt Smithson, to show how concerned they were about the funds.
Did Smithson contact you directly about the statue?
Yes, he did. He requested a personal meeting in my office in April 2019.
Did Smithson show up at your office with anyone else?
He showed up with 4 people who said they were citizens, but I didn't recognize them.
I'm sorry, Mayor, you're kind of fading in and out with your voice, so maybe a little closer. Let's try that.
May I clear my throat?
Yeah, you're just kind of coming in and out. And actually, when you lean forward, it was much better.
Okay.
All right.
Better?
That is much better. Thank you.
All right, I'll ask the last question again.
Thanks.
Did Smithson show up with anyone else at your office?
Yes, he showed up with 4 people who claimed they were citizens, but I didn't recognize them.
What did they discuss at this meeting?
They presented information on why Alton Berry didn't deserve a statue.
And how did this meeting end?
I was handed a letter, and Britt gave me a smile, a very odd smile, and said, "Don't say Tracy didn't warn you." They slammed my doors and tipped over my chairs.
Had Smithson ever mentioned these concerns before April 2019?
No, whenever we met, it was mostly about his construction company.
After this meeting, did DMIT ever contact you again?
Yes, they flooded all my platforms, my social media, emails, my work phone, and even my private phone.
I'd like to talk about these emails. Were they signed by anyone?
They were mostly signed by either Britt or Tracy.
And what were the tones of these emails sent like?
The tones of the emails they started out a little threatening, and then as the summer wore on, they became more threatening.
How long did these communications with DMIT last?
They started after April 2019 and then lasted until the last protest.
When did these protests start happening?
They started after that meeting in my office. They would hold monthly demonstrations on a Monday, which was publicly known was the busiest day for the city.
Did you ever attend any of these protests?
I attended the fourth protest to try to talk past our differences with me and Britt.
Well, what were the results of that?
It was a complete waste of time. I couldn't get my point out and I couldn't hear myself. The crowd was too rowdy. It didn't work.
Did you attend the final protest on September 16, 2018?
No, I was doing productive work in my office.
Were you able to make any observations about the statue after the protest?
Yes. When I came out, I saw that the arm had fallen and Britt and almost no one else was seen.
And what are the costs projected to be to restore the statue?
The cost is estimated to be over $10,000.
Thank you. No further questions at this time.
All right, if we remain there, Ms. Mayor, defense, any cross-examination?
It has been 8 years since your inauguration as mayor, correct?
Correct.
And is it true you are closely related to Mr. Alton Berry?
Yes, as I said, he was my great-grandfather.
Is it true you have relations with Mr. Smithson before the protest?
Yes, we had worked together with the construction company.
Is it true Mr. Smithson had been appearing to you about the removal of the statue before the demyth?
Can you restate that question?
Yes. Is it true that Mr. Smithson had been appearing to you about the concerns of the statue before the protest?
Yes.
And in the council meeting of April 2019, you said in your affidavit you received a letter from Mr. Smithson.
At that meeting, he did present a letter, yes.
And in that letter, it stated that immediate compliance won't lead to any consequences, correct?
Jackson Foundation, there's been no talk or, sorry, I'll withdraw.
All right, go ahead.
Can you repeat the question?
And in that letter, you said it felt threatening because it may have been foreboding something that could have happened on the final protest, correct?
Yes, I thought that I was threatened, my town was threatened, and my employees.
Yes, and once you ignored the letter, that is when the protest began after the council meeting of April 2019, correct?
Yes, the protest started after that meeting.
And in this protest, that is when the pestering began with the constant calls and letters for the removal, correct?
Correct.
Have you considered maybe these quote unquote consequences from the organization meant more protest?
I did consider that, yes, but I always have to assume the worst for the safety of me and my town.
There'll be a convenience for you for if the organization will just disappear, will it?
That
Objection.
Yes.
Relevance?
All right. And defense attorney, what's the relevance of that question or the answer?
The relevance of it was it was to it was just to see if Miss Grimm, if she, when she talked about in her statement about these how they forbade violent actions, we want to see if it meant more protests instead of what happened on the final protest.
Objection sustained. Next question.
And you weren't present at the last protest of September 2019, correct?
No, as I stated, I was doing productive work in my office.
Yes, I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, redirect.
No redirect, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Mayer, you may take your seat. All right, does the state have any further witnesses?
No, Your Honor, the state rests.
All right, at this time, we're going to take a 5-minute convenience break. And according to my clock, that means we'll be back at 6:48. Everybody, please mute yourself so we don't hear the dogs and cats barking. Thanks. All right, we should all be back. And is my bailiff back?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
In our jamboree, to show that everyone was back, when people return, they would turn on their cameras.
That would
so
be
they were
great.
Ready. I would suggest that so we know we're all
Yeah,
ready.
if I can at least have, well, I know Miss Fleshbine's ready, and I have my other raider, Ms. Molia. And if I can at least have the defense attorney, which it looks like oh, that's my bailiff. If I can have, there's a defense attorney, there is a state's attorney, and if I can have my witness say something so you pop up on my screen. Hello?
I'm the witness.
Ah, I see you there. All right, okay. Witness will come forward, and defense, your first witness.
I would like to call up Robin Hess at the stand.
All right, now please take your seat and proceed.
Can you state your name and briefly talk about your education and background?
My name is Robin Hess. I've earned my bachelor's degree in sociology with a minor concentration in political science from the Siskiyou Liberal Arts Institute. I've also obtained a Juris Doctor degree from the University of Puget Sound Law School.
Ms. Hess, what do you do?
I'm a professor of social and legal studies at Fair Harbor College. My primary field of research and study is regulating expressions in evolving societies.
Can you explain the Sedition Act of 1798?
The Sedition Act of 1798 was an act passed by Congress that basically permitted deportation, fines, or imprisonment for anyone that was deemed a threat for publishing false, scandalous, or malicious writing against the government of the United States.
What does this law have to do with Tracy Whitney's case? What is Miss Whitney accused of?
Our country has a vast...
Compound question.
That's a response. And if it is, you can say agreed and restate your question.
Agreed, I'll restate it.
All right, go ahead.
What does this have to do with Tracy Whitney's case?
Our country has a vast history of government officials criminalizing alleged dangerous speech or writing, and this directly applies to Whitney's case.
What was your contribution regarding this case?
I have provided my professional opinion regarding the standards that a jury should consider while deciding whether or not Tracy Whitney's communication encouraged criminal activity.
From your expertise, what did you conclude regarding Tracy Whitney's accusation of communication on criminal activity?
I've concluded from all of the collected evidence of statements published on websites and both text and email conversations that none of the evidence meets the law's standards, meaning that there's no proof of encouragement of criminal activity.
Now, you mentioned the word standards of the law. Can you explain what standards of the law you're referring to?
Yes. As stated in my affidavit, the basis for my opinion includes the framework of constitutional provisions, laws, and standards. These are similar to historical cases such as the Brandenburg versus Ohio case that provide precedents and standards for this one that ultimately ruled the defendant to be innocent.
What is the Brandenburg test and how does it relate to the standards you referred to?
Objection, compound question.
Go ahead and restate your question.
Okay. How does the case you just talked about, the Brandenburg versus Ohio, relate to the standards you referred to?
This Brandenburg versus Ohio case led to the creation of the Brandenburg test as a standard for future criminalization. And in particular, the Brandenburg test was a standard that was used to determine whether oral or written expressions can create a criminal status.
What are the three standards followed for this specific law?
For this specific law, there are three standards. 1, that there must be an intent to cause imminent lawless action. 2, the action must be imminent. And 3, there must be a likelihood that imminent lawless action will occur.
When applying the Brandenburg test standards on Whitney's communications, what were your impressions?
After reviewing Whitney's communications, I can conclude that the written materials on the DMIT website do not meet the standards for a call to imminent lawless action. For example, the content of the web postings don't call for violence or destruction of property.
Could you provide us with any details of cases that have used this test before?
Certainly. An example is a case of McCoy v. Stewart, where courts ruled in the defendant's favor that his advice on how to commit criminal offenses to members of a street gang called the Brats was just mere idle talk. Since this precedent has been set, it seems only logical that the same would apply in this case.
Your Honor, I'm going to pull up the exhibit number 2 for Ms. Hess. Okay. Ms. Hess, I'm going to show the exhibit consisting of the paraphrase quotes. What are your thoughts on this exhibit?
In this exhibit, Tracy...
Objection. Lack of foundation in this exhibit hasn't been admitted yet.
Not necessary for it to be admitted, but response to as of lack of foundation.
Can I restate the question?
You may.
Restate the question. Okay. Ms. Hess, what were your impressions on Gandhi's quotes on this exhibit?
Gandhi's quotes in this exhibit were paraphrased by Ms. Whitney.
Sorry, was there? I'm sorry, I thought there was an objection, but go ahead. I would have overruled it anyway. Go ahead.
Okay. Gandhi's quotes are used in this exhibit by Tracy Whitney, and she paraphrases these quotes and put them on her website. In my professional opinion, Gandhi is a nonviolent person who called for nonviolent direct action, and all the express statements have no call for anybody to do anything wrong.
Okay. Ms. Hess, what did you notice regarding the DMIT statue removal process?
I noticed that as the site postings and messages approached the day of the protest, the urgency from some of the statements do increase. However, there is no evidence of illegal conduct or encouragement of it. This increase in urgency can simply be explained by the fact that the DMIT organization has been trying to get rid of the statue for quite a while now, and they may have viewed this protest as a means of last chance.
On Hubbard's assault charges, what did you infer on accomplice liability?
Due to the law's requirement that an accomplice must intend to encourage a specific crime, which in this case has no evidence of it, my opinion is that these writings alone could not support a finding of accomplice liability for the felony assault charge. And on regards to Hubbard's assault, although I read a reference which refers to anyone who stands in our way, the reference was too vague of a statement and cannot logically be translated to be accused of a direct attack.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Okay, I would like to talk to you about the Brandenburg test. It is used to determine whether oral or written expressions can violate a criminal statute, correct?
Correct.
And one of the factors of this test is how focused the speaker is on a particular act or target.
The three standards of the test are whether the action is ruled to be imminent, and whether there is a high possibility if the action is going to occur.
More focused on a specific goal, the more likely that that speech can be prohibited, correct?
Could you say that again?
You kind of cut out there a little bit, counsel. If you can repeat your question.
Sorry. For these factors, the more focused on a specific goal, the more likely that the speech can be prohibited, correct?
Correct.
Meaning speech more likely to incite lawless action?
If you're asking if that's what the test talks about, then yes.
And in this case, the speaker is Tracy Whitney.
Is that a question? Are you making a statement or are you asking a question?
In this case, is the speaker Tracy Whitney?
In this case, yes.
Well, the target is the statue of Alton Berry?
I don't know if I would consider it a target since the statue is not a living thing, but yes.
So, the more focused Tracy Whitney was on removing the statue, the more likely that the statements they made would incite violent action.
That's not what I was saying. I was just saying that the test covers whether or not the statements will incite criminal activity. I'm not providing an opinion on whether Whitney is innocent or guilty.
Okay. Second during the test is the effect the communication has on the audience, correct?
Yes.
And in this case, this goes to the effect Tracy Whitney's statements had on the participants of the September 16th protest,
Yes.
including Wesley Everett.
Wesley Everett acted of his own free will, as he stated before, but yeah.
And earlier you said that there are 3 parts to proving whether a statement caused criminal action.
Yes.
One being that a criminal event happened following a spoken or written expression.
That was not one of the standards that I listed for the Brandenburg test, no.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. And redirect.
No redirect, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right, Ms. Hess, you may step down. 1 second, please. All right. Defense, call your next witness.
I would like to call Ms. Strong.
Okay, Ms. Strong, if you'll take the stand and proceed.
Good evening, Ms. Strong. Could you please state your name for the court?
Aylin Strong.
And what is your profession?
I am a reporter and journalist for the Barrington Standard.
And were you present at the scene of the protest on September 16th, 2019?
Yes, I was there as a journalist and reporter.
And what did you witness at the protest?
At the beginning, nothing much.
Objection vague.
Overrule. Go ahead and answer.
At the beginning, nothing much had happened, but then Everett jumped up to talk while the others discussed other meetings, and then I saw Everett hit the statue with a sledgehammer.
And who did you see giving Everett the sledgehammer?
Sorry, could you repeat that, please?
Who did you see giving Everett the sledgehammer?
I did not see who gave him the sledgehammer. However, he did have the sledgehammer when he climbed up the statue.
Okay. And what happened to the sledgehammer after he had broken the statue?
He handed it to someone.
Okay. And do you know what Britt Smithson's reaction was to this? Did you happen to notice that?
His face appeared to be very surprised that he was handed the sledgehammer.
And where was Tracy Whitney during the protest?
Tracy Whitney was not there at the protest.
Okay. And was there a live stream or a video or something that Whitney was communicating through?
Yes, there was. There appeared to be a pre-recorded video of some short inspirational messages played on repeat of Tracy Whitney.
And what led you to believe that they were pre-recorded?
I received a similar message when I tried to contact him.
That is all, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. You were the only person from the Barrington Standard to attend the protest on September 16th, correct?
Correct.
So you were responsible for getting both footage and taking notes at the same time?
Yes.
And in addition to taking notes and photos, you also had a tablet which you were watching the DMIT broadcast on, correct?
Correct.
And in order to see this broadcast, you had to put in a code,
Yes.
which you got directly from Britt Smithson, right?
Correct.
And you were trying to record the DMIT broadcast, but you were blocked.
Yes.
And while watching the broadcast, you saw Whitney's face pop up on the stream several times, correct?
Correct.
And each time, Whitney appeared to be talking.
Correct.
And right before Everett jumped up on the statue's face, you saw the image of Whitney shout something, correct?
Correct.
And you saw Everett bend over before jumping up on the statue?
Correct.
And after bending down, Everett had the sledgehammer?
Yes.
And when Belle Hubbard first got hurt, your first action was to take pictures of her,
Correct.
which you put on the first page of your publication?
Correct.
And after the incident, you tried to talk to Britt Smithson, correct?
Correct.
But you couldn't find them?
I could not.
And when you did see Britt Smithson the next day, they wouldn't talk to you?
Correct.
And the only thing Smithson would say to you is how they had no connection to Everett.
Correct.
Before the incident, Smithson was a ready source of information for you, right?
Yes, he was.
But they would never talk about Tracy Whitney?
No, they would not.
Thank you. No further questions.
All right, redirect.
Don't have it.
Redirect?
No redirect.
All right, so this witness can return to your seat. Give me one. All right, defense, call your next witness.
We have Mr. Britt Smithson up next.
Okay, and if you will go ahead and take the stand and proceed, Ms. Choi.
Can you please state your name to the court?
I am Britt Smithson.
And tell me about your profession, Mr. Smithson.
I have a full-time day job as the owner of a small business called Smithson Construction.
Can you tell us why you are here today?
I'm here to testify on my trial on this case. Although I was not advised to come, I came because I believe Tracy is innocent.
Can you tell us about the removal of the Barrington statue?
Yes, my ancestors came here around the time of statehood and when immigrants were looking for jobs in lodging camps and sawmills run by Tim Barons like Barry. And after doing some in-depth research, I found out the terrible work circumstances they were going through. They worked only enough to maintain their
Objection narrative.
Agreed, sustained. Ask them questions, Ms. Choi.
Can you tell us about your observation of the DMIT that was made by the? Can you tell us about the observation made by the DMIT about the working conditions?
Yes, DMIT had observed that there were terrible work circumstances and that they had gone through terrible living matters. They all had either lost a few limbs or their fingers were cut. They worked 10 hours plus a day, and the lodging.
Objection narrative.
I have to agree. So I'm going to ask Ms. Choi that you ask some questions and your witness not basically present a narrative form. In other words, talking on and on and on.
Yes.
All right, so let's ask questions to focus her testimony.
All right. Can you tell us about the DMIT organization and what they did to combat this issue?
Yes, so before I knew about DMIT, I formed a study group called Pine County, and we focused on the symbols of oppression that we unthinkingly maintained. And I came across DMIT while doing some online research.
Thank you. Is the organization only focused on the removal of the Barrington statue?
No, DMIT also focused on different removals that were located in Montana, Australia, and also focused in Ohio.
Thank you. What part did Tracy play in the removal of protest in Barrington specifically?
Tracy played a really little part in the protest. She was one of the people watching online. And if she ever commented on any of the online protests, all she did was give words of encouragement.
Can you tell us a little bit about the reoccurring codes such as energetic tango?
Yes, energetic tango was actually a joke nickname we ended up giving Tracy after we saw a video that was resurfaced of her doing a very bad victory dance after an event in Mexico.
Can you tell us about Everett's part in the organization?
Yes, Everett was always the type of guy to overhype any situation, and he would always take things to the next extreme level. He was very dramatic.
What manners and protests were kind of discussed in the inner circle?
All our inner circle
Objection, lack of foundation.
Response?
No response.
All right, so withdraw the question. Next question.
Can you tell us about the day of final demonstration of September 16, 2019?
Yes, I went straight to the demonstration right after I was working at a nearby construction site, and that's where the sledgehammer came in, and that was why it was put in the back of my truck.
Can you tell us about
And sorry.
Actually, I'm going to have you hang on. Ms. Choi, go ahead and ask a question.
Can you tell us about the aftermath of Mr. Everett's actions?
Yes, after Everett had acted the way he acted, Tracy immediately contacted me and asked me to schedule a press conference so we could disavow anything Wesley had done.
Thank you. That's no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, then cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. You have pending charges for the September 16th incident, is that right?
Yes.
Your trial will be held sometime after this one?
Yes.
When joining DMIT, you've never agreed with all the philosophy the defendant espoused?
Yes, I did disagree with some of the things that were upheld in the organization.
You think some of the DMIT ideas about direct action are too aggressive?
Initially, yes, I did.
You also think that the protesting techniques suggested in the materials could only lead to violence?
Yes, in the beginning.
Having full knowledge about how DMIT ideas could be interpreted in violent ways, you still proceed to affiliate with the organization?
Yes, I did, because I felt like DMIT was a good way to go, and I did not
when communicating with the defendant, you believed that the encrypted program you used was paranoid?
Objection, my witness was just speaking.
Actually, you did cut off the witness, so permit the witness to go ahead and answer their question.
I was saying sorry, could you repeat that question one more time?
Yes, having full knowledge about how the DMIT ideas could be interpreted in violent ways, you still proceed to affiliate with the organization?
Yes, because I did not allow any violence to happen. I didn't encourage any violence personally.
When communicating with the defendant, you believe that the encrypted program you used was paranoid?
Yes.
All of your communication with the defendant was saved onto your laptop?
Yes, that is true.
You no longer have this laptop?
No, I do not have this laptop.
So your laptop conveniently fell. And what happened to your laptop?
A few days after the whole event, my laptop accidentally fell into the river.
So your laptop conveniently fell into the Bear River right after Everett took his sledgehammer and used it to destroy the statue?
It was not intentionally, but it did fall.
I don't see the relevance of this question.
Well, your objection is a little late there, but it's not particularly relevant, but the objection, yeah. Okay, I will actually sustain the objection, and basically it was just asked and answered in a different way. So the jury will disregard. Go ahead.
Couldn't you have put your laptop in a safer place to use it as evidence of your innocence rather than being so reckless with it?
That would have been something I could have done, but it was unintentional.
Now, Everett told you about the in-depth conversations they had with Whitney?
Sorry, could you repeat that question?
Now, Everett told you about the in-depth conversations they had with Whitney?
Yes.
Everett told you those in-depth conversations were about direct action to the Berry statue?
I'm sorry, you cut off in the beginning. Could you say that again?
And Everett told you those in-depth conversations were about direct action to the Berry statue?
He did talk about it, but not specifically about the statues.
Now, Everett and the defendant attended your chapter-led video conferences months prior to the incident. Is that right?
Yes.
The defendant talked about tactical discussions at those meetings?
Yes, but they were not so encouraged. They were talked about, though.
Whitney didn't want those discussions disclosed?
I'm sorry?
Whitney didn't want those discussions disclosed?
No.
During the August 22nd video conference, you used the statue removal in Australia, which ended in violence and vandalism, as a motivational tool?
We wanted to keep that spirit going, but not encourage any violence that happened in that protest.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
The defendant was listening attentively?
Yes.
But Whitney didn't intervene or mention how the violence that was used during that protest was the wrong way of getting the statues removed?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
But Whitney didn't intervene or mention how the violence that was used during that protest was the wrong way of getting statues removed?
She did not encourage any violence throughout our protest, but during this protest, she didn't say anything about that, so we didn't refer to that protest at all.
During the month of protest leading up to the incident, you and Everett took turns live streaming the events for the defendant?
Yes, that is true.
The defendant would say encouraging comments during these protests?
Yes, but only encouraging, not encouraging any violence.
During the fourth monthly protest, there was pushing and shoving between the crowd?
Did you say there was pushing or shoving?
Pushing and shoving, yes.
Yes.
Everett was involved in the pushing and shoving?
I'm not sure.
But the inner circle was involved in the pushing and shoving?
I cannot recall.
And during the video conference about the Australian protest, Whitney said that physical effort must have a purpose and achieve a goal?
Yes, she did say that.
Everett was still allowed to participate in the protest, in the fifth protest?
In this protest?
The fifth one.
He was allowed to participate, but that was something that I didn't really like just because of Everett's behavior ever since he joined our organization.
On the day of the incident, you came to the protest in a truck?
Yes, that was because I came from a nearby construction site.
You had a sledgehammer left unsecured in the back of your truck where anyone could take it?
Yes, it was there with some other tools since I had just been working and I came straight from the construction site.
You couldn't have left work earlier or have locked the sledgehammer inside your truck rather than leaving it in the back?
No, I was coming straight from there, so I just thought it'd be convenient to put it in the back since I was already going on my way.
This was the same sledgehammer that Everett used to destroy the statue and to injure Hubbard?
That is true, but I do not have any idea how it got into Wesley's hand. That was, I just saw a glimpse of it after I was done talking.
During the protest, you heard the defendant's excited voice over the live streaming tablet?
I did, but I did not hear what she had said.
After the defendant spoke, Everett then began to destroy the statue?
Yes, but I am not sure if that's from whatever she said, that's just after I came down from speaking, he just went up. So I don't know if that relates.
So just to clarify, even though you knew that Everett had a history of aggressive behavior and that the defendant Everett communicated about direct action to the violent action or direct action to the Berry statue, you still are surprised by Everett's actions on September 16th?
Yes, because we had told him that he was not going to take a big part and he was just there to hold up my tablet so everyone viewing from online could view it. And I did not know he was going to act or behave that way at that protest.
Thank you. No further questions.
All right, redirect.
No response.
All right, this witness can take their seat. And if you'll just give us a couple minutes. All right, defense call. Well, actually, let me just check in with my raters. I was actually up to date on that. Are both my raters ready to go?
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, call your next witness.
I would like to call Miss Whitney to the stand.
All right, Whitney, if you'll take the stand, go ahead and proceed.
Good evening, Miss Whitney. Could you please state your full name for the court?
Tracy Whitney.
And are you the founder of Debunking Mythology, also known as DMite?
Yes, I am.
And for what purpose did you create Debunking Myth Story?
I created Debunking Mythology to share my personal beliefs on giving power to the powerless, and I curated these beliefs over the several years of being a history professor.
And do you believe in using violent methods to achieve your goals?
No, I do not.
Have you ever intentionally condoned the act of violence?
I've never intentionally condoned the act of violence.
And has your website ever stated anything that may have condoned violence?
No, I'm not aware if it has.
And do you control what happens in each chapter of Debunking Myth Story?
No, we have over 100 chapters, so I cannot possibly control what every chapter does, but I merely just share my ideas.
And is Britt Smithson the leader of the Barrington chapter?
Yes, he is.
And does this mean that he plans out the actions of that group or chapter for Debunking Myth Story?
Yes.
And are you responsible for responding to all of your messages or emails that you receive?
No, I am not. I've hired a full-time staff to answer the emails and messages.
So does this mean that the messages in Exhibit 5 might not have been sent by you?
Yes, that's correct.
And do you only hire staff members if their beliefs line up with yours?
No, we've hired staff members apart from my actual opinions and beliefs.
And were you at the protest on September 16th?
No, I've never been to Pine County. I was watching via live stream in my home in the Midwest.
And what did you say during the protest, if you said anything?
I can't recall really saying anything because I was in a rush because I had a meeting in like the next 15 minutes. But if I did say anything, it would have been just an encouraging statement or two.
And did you scream energetic tango at the protest?
I absolutely did not scream energetic tango.
And what does energetic tango mean to you?
Energetic tango is just an embarrassing nickname given to me after a couple of people saw a dance of me.
And does this mean that it's not used as a code?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Okay. To clear things up, you were not at the protest, right?
Objection leading?
Yes, that's correct.
Sorry, was there an objection?
Yeah, objection leading.
Response?
I'm going to say agreed. Yeah.
All right, go ahead and ask your next question. I'm sorry, I'm about to ready to have a cat fight outside my door, so I'm muting and unmuting.
Okay. So because of your staff being hired to respond to messages, does that mean that you have likely never responded to Everett?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you. That is all.
All right, cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor.
And actually, let me 1 second here. Defense has 10 minutes remaining and looks like plaintiff has about the same. So it looks like prosecution has about the same. All right, go ahead.
Okay. Ms. Whitney, you are very familiar with the website for DMIT, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
On the website, there's the section events/activities.
Mhm.
And on that section,
I'm sorry, can I ask you to say yes or no, please?
Oh, yes.
and in that section, there's the phrase energetic tango, listen for the signals, correct?
Correct.
And within your mission statement, you refer to statues as blockhouses, is that right?
Correct.
And in that same paragraph, it talks of anyone defending the blockhouse will be swept aside, correct?
Correct.
Now, DMIT has had protests in many other areas, is that right?
Yes.
Specifically, you had a protest that took place in Australia,
Correct.
and you also made encouraging comments.
Yes.
During this protest, the Cook statue was torn down by the crowd, is that right?
Yes.
A private security guard was also severely wounded,
Yes.
and it is fair to say that the security was defending this statue, is that right?
I can't say whether or not he was.
As security, it is their job to defend the statue, is that right?
Yes.
And on the website for this event, the details are, be prepared, he comes down today, is that right?
Yes, but I don't know if I wrote those details.
And furthermore, you had a video conference on August 22nd, 2019,
Yes.
and there was discussion about this Australian protest, right?
Yes.
In fact, you were even pleased about the results of the Australian protest?
I don't believe so.
Prior to this trial, you wrote a statement, correct?
Yes.
Your memory was fresher back then than it was today, correct?
Most likely.
And you wrote that statement under penalty of perjury?
Yes.
I'm going to share my screen showing a statement of Tracy Whitney, and on page 42, line 6, I'll highlight it. You said the Australia success was brought up and all of us were pleased that the Cook statue had come down after months of agitation and pressure. Is that right?
Oh, yes. I guess my memory was fresher.
Thank you. Moving on, you use an encrypted service to talk with DMET members, is that right?
Yes, I do.
And you aren't authorizing the retrieval of these messages, is that right? Correct?
Could you repeat yourself?
Sorry. And you aren't authorizing the retrieval of these messages, is that correct?
I don't understand the question.
You aren't authorizing the retrieval of your encrypted messages between members, correct?
Still don't understand the question.
You can't remember if you specifically messaged Miss Everett, is that right?
No, I cannot.
Though the emails in Exhibit 4 are actually from your account.
Yes, but they don't really look familiar.
And in one of Miss Everett's emails, she said, "I will listen to your signal as agreed." Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. But once again, I don't know if that was me responding. They don't look familiar. So might have not been me.
It might have been one of your staff, correct?
Yes, it could have been a staff member, most likely.
And you are the employer of your staff, correct?
Yes, that's correct. But we don't hire based off of if they fully agree with me or not.
Meaning, well, that means you are still responsible for their actions, is that right?
Yes, that's correct. But once again, I can't be responsible for everyone's action.
And in one of your responding emails, you said to, or the email from your account said to keep your eyes/ears open. Is that right?
That's correct.
Now, you had a message exchange with from your phone number with Miss Everett, correct?
I don't believe so.
And you are the only one to respond on your encrypted chat, is that right?
That's correct, but I don't recall messaging Everett ever.
And with this encrypted chat, you texted Miss Everett ready to bring the hammer down tomorrow, is that right?
I don't believe so.
However, it was from your account that only you respond to, right?
I don't recall responding to Everett.
You are the only one to respond on the encrypted chat, correct?
But I don't recall responding to him ever.
Okay. 2 days prior to the September 16th protest, you sent an email to Ms. Everett.
I don't believe so.
There was an email sent to Ms. Everett from your account, is that correct?
Yes.
In this, it said to be willing to sacrifice yourself and others if necessary.
Yes, but once again, could have been one of my staff members.
And Ms. Wendy, you watched the final protest in Barrington?
But I was not there. I was there via live stream watching.
Correct. And during this live stream, you communicated with your members?
Once again, I was kind of not really paying attention that much. So, I mean, kind of.
And you gave them encouraging comments similar to Australia's?
Gave them encouraging comments.
Thank you. No further questions.
Of course.
You're muted.
Sorry, I know I'm muted. All right, redirect.
I do not have anything.
All right, this witness can step down and give us 1 second. All right, I know I'm probably the slowest one. I'm doing 2 jobs though. All right, that's my whining for the day. All right, and
Your Honor, may I ask a question?
sure.
This is Raider Fleshbein, and I just submitted grades, and it says the page can't be found.
Yeah, I had the same thing happen.
So I'm just wondering.
I'm hoping that it means that it's not found because there are no more ratings to give.
Okay.
Where's our supervisor? Are they still with us?
I am here.
Yay. So are you aware of what's going on, or do you know what we're talking about?
I just became aware of it from the Raiders, so I'm looking into it.
So we click submit on our last one, and it's got this like stop sign that says not found. The page you're looking for can't be found, which seems kind of odd.
Yeah.
So
I will reach out on our end and see what we can do.
Oh, please, I hope it's not lost. All right, I'm hoping that what it is just that since there's no more ratings to be done, that's it. All right. Oh, well, that's not good because we haven't rated closing arguments.
Yeah, we still have closing, so I'll look into this and get back to you.
So let's keep this rolling, and for the Raiders and myself, we're going to need to take some handwritten notes. I luckily have a page here for me. I don't know if either one of you have pad and paper. Hopefully you do. And let me see if I can remember who is doing what.
I believe Kate was working on paper already, and I now have a tally sheet, so I'm ready.
Okay, great. All right. And let's see. Let me just. You have a tally sheet? Like a one for the cross-examination? I mean,
A
for
score sheet.
Oh.
The typical paper score sheets.
Oh, I'm familiar. Okay, I'm actually familiar with those. Let me just take a look here. So for the state, we have closing by Ms. Voss. Okay. And then for the defense, we have closing, I think Ms. Choi. All right, and so and I do not think we do rebuttal. Actually, I'm not sure why I don't remember that. I don't think we do rebuttal. So are both
Your
parties?
Honor,
Yeah,
the plaintiff is permitted a 2-minute rebuttal.
that's what I thought. Okay, all right, great. Thank you for reminding me. See, I don't have my score sheet, so I couldn't remember. All right, so state, over to you. Any rebuttal witnesses?
Rebuttal witnesses?
Do you have any rebuttal? In other
Oh, I'm
words,
sorry, Your Honor. I was referring to a rebuttal during the closing.
well, that's what okay. That's what I thought. All right, the state has closed. I guess there is no other opportunity. All right, so we have closing arguments, and are both parties ready to proceed with closing arguments? I see a head nod from prosecution and a head nod from defense. All right, so Ms. Voss, if you would like to begin.
Yes, thank you. Today you have seen the work of the calculating and manipulative puppet master Tracy Whitney. In the beginning, we asked you to look for the hidden strings they used to control their puppet Wesley Everett in the events of September 16th. The easiest way to find these strings is to begin when they were first placed. The strings used to control Wesley Everett were placed on her the day Britt Smithson decided she should talk to Tracy Whitney. Wesley Everett was a perfect puppet for Whitney to use and blame. Someone who just wanted their opinion to be heard and valued. Tracy Whitney used Everett's blind faith in debunking Miss Story to control her. By using well-placed words of encouragement, Whitney controlled Everett's beliefs and goals to fit their own agenda. As you saw today in the messages between the defendant and Miss Everett, Whitney praised Everett for using force to further their plans. Using repeated phrases like, by any means necessary, and do what you can, Tracy
All right, did I freeze up or did Ms. Voss freeze up?
Ms. Voss froze.
Okay, great. All right, so bailiff, if you'll
Time has been
stop
stopped.
the time. Great, thanks. All right, looks like.
hear me?
All right, we got you back. You froze. Please stop your time. Go ahead and proceed.
How long ago did I freeze?
Oh, goodness. You stated that.
Said by any means necessary.
Right, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Using repeated phrases like by any means necessary and do what you can, Tracy Whitney was able to place the idea that violence was the answer into Everett's head. This isn't the only instance of the defendant using carefully placed words and phrases to suggest violent action. In going over DMIT's website page, expert witness Detective Brandberg was able to find many instances of Whitney adapting and changing quotes to have a darker meaning. In the mission statement, Detective Brandberg found that Whitney used the code word blockhouses to talk about their target statue. It is directly said in the mission that anyone defending these blockhouses should be swept aside, meaning the goal was removing the statue, even if it meant harming people who got in the way. The defendant has been charged with criminal conspiracy. My co-counsel is now putting up jury instruction number 8. Between September 1st and September 16th, 2019, Tracy Whitney conspired with and manipulated Wesley Everett through the use of emails and texts to commit malicious mischief and assault. In the days leading up to the September 16th protest, Tracy Whitney and Wesley Everett discussed how the statue was going to come down at the protest by any means necessary. In both the emails from September 14th and the messages from September 15th, Whitney reminds Everett to listen for signals and to keep her ears open. This is so Everett can hear their code word, energetic tango, and just as planned, take down the statue. With the strings in place, everything was set up for the September 16th protest. Everett would be the puppet center stage while Whitney pulled strings from afar. Tracy Whitney watched the protest and occasionally shouted out words of encouragement to teammate members, but the most important part came after Whitney said energetic tango. Tracy Whitney has also been charged with malicious mischief in the first degree. On September 16th, 2019, Tracy Whitney, as an accomplice to Wesley Everett, knowingly and maliciously caused physical damage to the statue of Alton Berry. Through the use and control of their puppet, Wesley Everett, Tracy Whitney violently struck down the statue. It was a known goal of Whitney's to take down the statue by any means necessary. On September 15th, Whitney asked Everett if she was ready to bring down the hammer tomorrow. And the very next day, just like Whitney had planned, Everett used the sledgehammer Britt Smithson provided to break down the statue of Alton Berry and sweep aside anything that got in her way, including Del Hubbard. Tracy Whitney pulled every string they had to manipulate the situation to exactly what they wanted. Whitney knew exactly how to do it too, but this wasn't the first time a deemit protest had ended in a destroyed statue and someone seriously hurt. The first was in Sydney, Australia. There is no mistaking the similarities between the two protests. In Sydney, Whitney was also giving words of encouragement, and in the end, a security guard defending the statue was injured, just like Del Hubbard. The last thing Tracy Whitney has been charged with is assault in the second degree. As an accomplice to Wesley Everett, the defendant intentionally assaulted Del Hubbard, causing her to sustain serious injuries, including a fractured scapula, broken collarbone, and damage to her skull and brain. Because of the reckless actions of Tracy Whitney, Del Hubbard's life has been affected forever. But of course, Tracy Whitney didn't want to be connected to what happened. After the protest, it was time for Whitney to cut all the strings controlling Everett. Not only was Wesley Everett a puppet, but also a sacrifice. From the very start, Whitney had planned to let Everett take the fall for everything that happened on September 16th. Even though now broken, the strings controlling Everett and the events of September 16th were very real and very dangerous. When talking about the events of September 16th, jury instruction number 9 is very important. A person is legally accountable for the conduct of another person when he or she is an accomplice of such other person in the commission of the crime. Tracy Whitney is guilty as an accomplice to the crimes of Wesley Everett because Whitney encouraged and manipulated Everett to commit them. Although not physically at the protest on September 16th, Whitney was still present via the deemit broadcast. Their presence and words are what directly caused Everett to take lawless action. A person who is an accomplice in the commission of a crime is guilty of that crime, whether present at the scene or not. We ask that you find Tracy Whitney guilty of all charges. The only way to stop a puppet show is to stop the puppet master. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And defense counsel.
Yes. Your Honor, my name is Irene Choi, and I'll be representing the defendant of this case. Your Honor, it is common knowledge that one person's action cannot identify the fight. The bigger the protests, the more contrast there will be in between the protesters. And among those protesters, there inevitably may be people fighting outside the line of the cause. That is why a person serving the purpose cannot identify the cause. The removal of the Brereton statue is an effort that consists of many concerned citizens who had different approaches of combating this issue. Mr. Everett and the organization fought with completely different values. Mr. Everett is the one who fought outside the line that Miss Tracy carefully drew for a peaceful, successful protest. Your Honor, in order for a client to be convicted of a crime, they need to have the intent and show evidence of the action. But we clearly saw today that Miss Tracy had no intent of stirring up violence among her protest. Is it really justice to charge these serious crimes against someone who had no knowledge of these crimes? Your Honor, can you imagine spending years and years of your life burdened of the crimes of someone else who took advantage of your words? Your Honor, the prosecution side has stretched out the evidence to frame my client, Miss Tracy Whitney, to look responsible for the actions of Mr. Everett. Firstly, the prosecution side made it seem that Miss Tracy and Mr. Everett had planned a particular date to bring down the hammer and bring violence to the town. They use this by stretching out the language that was used, such as quote unquote, ready to bring it down, or quote unquote, ready to take sacrifice yourself. But however, these were just words used to hype up the movement. And a lot of them were slang words. Bring the hammer down meant to be more assertive. And among those words, she also encouraged using speech. Miss Tracy and the organization were only practicing the First Amendment right, the right to join fellow citizens in peaceful protest. Tracy and our organization only wanted to bring justice for the speechless victims of these harsh working conditions. Their way of spreading the truth was to bring down that statue, and their way of bringing that statue down was to protest. A person serving the purpose cannot identify the cause. In addition, the decoding of codes being used as evidence is not reliable. Basing this evidence back, connecting historical context isn't sufficient, as code words could have simply been brought up spontaneously among the organization. And a lot of them, even the languages that were used among the protest were the code such an exhibit. Sorry. Okay. Mr. Hess, a professor at Fair Hair College, has clearly acknowledged that Miss Tracy's writing did not meet the standards of becoming criminal activity. If Miss Tracy's organization is a worldwide organization that focuses on the removal of multiple statues in Connecticut, Australia, and Montana, why would she be specific and going through all the trouble of bringing violence into Barrington statue specifically? Her appearance of the Barrington statue were only evident through the internet, so how much can she really affect Mr. Everett's action? Miss Tracy is an extremely busy person fighting to fix our history. Can we really convict someone from thousands of miles away who had no knowledge of the crime? Our client, Tracy Whitney, has been falsely accused of crimes of first-degree malicious mischief, criminal conspiracy, and second-degree assault, which are all vicious actions done by Mr. Everett, who brought down the hammer on $1,000 property and consequently brought bodily harms to Mr. Hubbard. The protest has been peaceful without any evidence of violence for bodies during the protest, all throughout the summer of 19 until the outburst of Everett's action. Your Honor, we all have spoken out of wrath once in our lives. Think back to the time you wished your mean teacher could disappear, or when you could just get rid of your loud neighbors, and imagine someone heard those words and brought it into real action. Are you serious? Are you going to be responsible for their crimes? If Tracy is convicted as she spoke out today, we would all be put into jail today. She never meant the statue to be removed violently, but Mr. Everett is the one who took advantage of her harmless words. For these reasons, after you heard all the evidence at the end of this trial, we will ask you to return the verdict in favor of Ms. Tracy Whitney. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Rebuttal, State?
Yes, sir. Despite arguments made by the defense trying to hide the strings, the fact still remains that Tracy Whitney is the puppet master that controlled the events of September 16th and Wesley Everett. The defense isn't contesting the fact that Dalton Bear's statue was damaged, or that Del Hubbard was injured on September 16th. The only thing they don't agree with is the fact that the defendant conspired with Wesley Everett to do so. Today, we have given you more than enough evidence showing Tracy Whitney's guilt. Everett's testimony today is backed up by messages sent directly from the defendant. It is no coincidence that Whitney's words became reality. Whitney told Everett to bring down the hammer, and the next day, Everett struck down the statue with a sledgehammer. Whitney told Everett to be ready to sacrifice herself and others. And right after that, Everett then sacrificed Del Hubbard in pursuit of taking down the statue, and was promptly sacrificed herself by Tracy Whitney so Everett could take the fall. It is a puppet master's job to try to hide and disguise their strings, which is why it is so important for you to pay extra close attention. The only correct and just verdict in this case is guilty.
All right, thank you. All right. Oh, 1 second, please. I'm having some scoring issues and chat just got disabled. Ms. Fleshbein, I tried to refresh and still got not found. What did you do to refresh? How did you get it back up?
Issue. That's exactly what my problem is.
Okay.
I thought started entirely and have hit the link anew to launch a page, and I'm still in the same. I'm back.
Okay.
I'm not getting the error, but I can't get back into the courtroom.
Right. I was just looking at it says, please refresh your page. It looks like Raider Fleshbein has been able to move forward, scoring to closing. And I'm like, okay, how did she do that?
No.
All right.
So this is Amber here, and it looks like on our end, it's showing that you move forward, but obviously that's not the case.
Right.
And so is there on your screen, are you able to go in the top right corner to go back to a section, go back to witness 4?
I'm outside of rating altogether. I'm merely at the page where I can click on the Kitsap tournament.
Okay, I went back to, I was able to get back to witness 4. And then I have to save or continue. Let me look here. Save and continue, I'm sorry. Let me try that one more time. Yeah, that's not working. So let me, all right, so I went back to witness 4. And basically it takes me right back to witness 4, and it has the save and continue. And then let's see, up in the right-hand corner, really the only thing that's there.
Or it might be, left-hand corner, sorry. There was.
It's okay. All right, and so not sure where I'm going back to. So up at my top, it says Kitsap drop down, not much there. It says, then just below that, there's back to my home. And across the top, I'm not seeing anything that's helpful. I've got my judge page. Whoops.
So click on your judge page.
Yeah. Not found. That's disturbing.
That is disturbing.
Okay, so let's go back to home. Affiliate with team, affiliate with judge. Kind of sort of starting out from the beginning.
And I think you're seeing the same thing I am. There's no link to click on to send me to this particular track.
Right. So I'm hoping that what we did so far isn't lost.
It should be saved in the cloud. So we can continue to do it manually, and then I'm working with them right now on the East Coast to get that solved.
Wow, good luck with that.
Yeah.
It's like 11 o'clock there. All right. Okay, so, well, I've made my notes, but let me just, I haven't rated yet, so just hang on 1 second. All right, well, I guess I'll start because that's what I'm supposed to do. And my name is literally Judge Joanne D'Antonio. As of 10 days ago, 12 days ago, I retired as a federal administrative law judge with my office in Tacoma. Prior to that time, I worked for Social Security as an attorney, and then prior to that, I started my career in Kitsap County in Bremerton Muty and in District and Superior Court of the county doing misdemeanors and felonies. Judge Lewis always has an interesting set of facts for us. This, I think, is probably the more bizarre of them. And he has a very good habit of making them pretty even. I mean, they could go either way. In this case, not as a reflection on current events or the law applicable to current events, I think I'd have to find that not quite proven beyond a reasonable doubt, pretty darn close, but I would probably find not guilty if that was up to me at this point. So, all right, and that's just on these specific facts, to be very clear. All right, so my notes, I put most of my notes in the notes that I wrote. Generally, terrific job, you guys. I cannot imagine, this is hard, and I cannot imagine having to do this in this virtual background here. It makes things very difficult, and I am very sorry that you didn't get the opportunity to come into a courtroom. It is just a much better experience, and there's nothing like a real courtroom. This video doesn't quite ever do it justice, to use a weird term there. So everybody did a wonderful job. I just have some general questions. Everybody slow down. I know you're teenagers and you talk fast, and I'm from the East Coast and I talk fast, but you have to slow down, especially on video, because we don't have perfect clarity here. And so you want to make sure when you move forward that everything's enunciated well and that you're speaking slowly so everybody can understand what you're saying and they get, you know, the best punch out of what's going on. I want to make some comments on cross-examination. Remember that the key is to ask leading questions. Yeah, not every question has to be leading, but the majority of them should be. And the idea there is that you are the one making the impact with the testimony and not the witness. So you want to hear the jury, have them hear you give the answers and not give the defendant or the witnesses the opportunity to give their long-winded answers that potentially could mean that they're explaining away what you're trying to make a point of. And just witnesses, slow down. And I thought that the parties did a good job controlling the witnesses who were run amok, and the narrative objections were well taken. Most of the objections were well taken. I would just say that anticipate objections, particularly when it comes to exhibits. You need to kind of know, you need to know your enemy. So you should know their case as well as you know your case, and you should anticipate any objections that they'll have either to the testimony that you're offering or to the exhibits, especially if you know you're on the line as to whether or not something might be admissible. My only other thing I'm going to say, because I know I'm only supposed to have 5 minutes and I didn't pay attention to how long I was going, is there is this amazing book out there called Mauet's Courtroom Techniques, and it's M-A-U-E-T, and it gives you everything you need to know about cross-examination, and particularly admission of exhibits and using of exhibits to impeach. And my final word is that when you are requesting something to be admitted, it is, I offer for admission this such and such an exhibit. You're not moving to admit, it's offering for admission. So that's my big pet peeve with most people, is that they don't know that. Get Mauet Trial Techniques, great book, tells you everything you need to know. Use it as my Bible for years. All right, that's it for me. Who wants to go next? Ms. Fleshstein? There she goes. There you go. That's the one. Mine's older than that. Oh, and by the way, Lynn and I went to UPS Law School. It doesn't exist anymore. So just to let you know that. And you're on mute, Lynn. You're on mute, Lynn. Lynn, you're on mute.
It's like every courtroom nightmare. This is court for me now. Has been court for the last year. I finally solved I tried to solve the sideways vision thing that happens when your camera is here, but your screen is there. And so then I spend the whole time bobbing my head around because I can't see what I need to see on the screen. Anyway.
I'm just going to comment that Ms. Fleshpine just wants you to see how busy she is.
No, I really don't. No one needs to know that. You'll never go to law school if you knew that. This is, I pull this out every time I have a trial, and I walk through all the objections every single time I have a trial that I think I might have and that I might need to do. Cross-examination is as much theater as it is supposed to prove anything. Slow down, and I'm the queen of fast talkers. There's only one other attorney in Kitsap County that talks faster than I do, and it's Cecily Myrise. It's not even you, Judge D'Antonio. You know, this is I'm a process person, and so if you're feeling like you're a fish out of water in the beginning of this, and it takes practice, and I've been practicing 21 years now, and I'm in a vastly different place skill set wise than I was in the beginning. I was scared to death in the beginning all the time, and that's sort of where you should be. Some of you are a little more polished than others, and that means you've practiced and gotten more comfortable. The rest of you have that potential. You just have to spend the time doing it. I don't think I have anything more constructive to add than that.
Thanks, that was excellent. Ms. Molia.
Okay, I will be the third one to say trial techniques. I was in trial last week and I still pulled this out and referred to it and tried to refresh my memory on, okay, what exactly do I say when I enter an exhibit? So it's a phenomenal book. You have to have it if you're going to be a litigator at all. I echo all the comments so far. I think that everybody did overall a good job. The thing that I was particularly impressed with is a lot of this is becoming comfortable. You have to do a number of trials. You have to become more comfortable with public speaking. You will get better about thinking on your feet and at responding to objections. That comes with time. But I was really impressed with everybody's questions. You're thinking about the right things. Your line of questioning is on point. Some of you are better than others about making sure they're leading questions on cross, those types of things, but your thought process is all right on. Trying to get certain things out of certain witnesses, and I was really impressed with that. And I think I can echo the comments about slow down and think through, have 5 points that you want to get out of a witness, and what do you need them to say? And then it can be during your questioning, did I get them to say what I need them to say? And if I didn't, how can I rephrase the question to try and get that out of them? So I think those are pretty much all my comments, and a great job, especially over Zoom. This is super difficult. And I have my co-rater here who was listening, and he was very captivated by everything. So great job, and I'm impressed.
All right, our staff courtroom person, is there anything else that you need from any of the parties before everybody drops off, or where we go?
I want to say great job on your first trial, and thank you to our volunteers. We seem to have figured out the scoring ballot issue, so you should be able to get back into your judges page, and it should have saved from where you left off.
Okay, so Pam, we're not going to let you go anywhere. So
no problem.
Where are we going back to? Well, and
I'm gonna stop the live stream, and if teams want to log off, feel free. If all of the